Okay, so yeah, we're here with John. You're an old resident of the area in Glencairn, aren't you?
Yeah, well, I grew up here. I was actually born in Muizenberg because my parents had to move out of the rented house for the summer. But essentially born in 1938, and I finally left in, I suppose, 1961 when I went off to study overseas. So that was all my growing up essentially was here in Glencairn. You know, this was founded probably just after the Boer War. I'm not sure of the date. It was settled by a group of Scots.
Okay.
A syndicate of Scots. And so there's, when I was growing up, there were still elderly Scots around, and some Scots names on the houses and the roads as well. Yeah, the Mackies were lots of Mackies around, and the McElroths and the Leiths, and the house that we first stayed in, which we'll go past here, which on Glen Road. That's called Airlie, which is another Scots name.
What attracted the Scots to this area?
I think because it was a bargain.
It
was very remote.
Yeah,
it was really very remote. The train went every day, very promptly. And that was Kay Ollis's house. Yeah, she was a maiden lady. She had a wonderful ancient. I think not sure what, a Ford or something, but it was just a tiny car which you could push. And that's the McElroths. That's one of the other houses too. Later on, Tim Noakes's family lived there.
Okay.
Yeah, they came from Rhodesia. And that stone house there is where I lived until I was 10. That's Airlie. That was a vacant plot next door. It's looking a bit funny now, but that's a lovely old house. And then in 1948 we moved up onto Forest Way, where my grandfather had built a house made of corrugated iron cement, because he'd been a railway builder. And these were the kind of places that he used when they were out in the bush. And I used to go up. Hang on, you'd be going a bit fast. This road here is miles. Oh, we went past my cousin's place. That's a huge old place. That's our house right up there.
Okay.
That one with the chimney up there. That we called it the Ridge, and that was built in 1948. And my parents and my elder brother and myself, and then later on my much younger sister, we lived there. And I think my parents eventually sold it in about 1962 because my brother had gone overseas, I'd gone overseas, and they thought maybe we're not coming back. And it was not long after Sharpeville, the massacre at Sharpeville, which shook the country, and prices were very low, and they got 5,000 rand.
5,000 rand
for that house on a double plot.
Sure.
Right. Beautiful views all around. What astonishes me now about Glencairn is all the trees.
Yeah.
Because the only trees that I remember were like gum trees along here. But as for trees in gardens, we didn't even believe it was possible with the southeaster blowing like that and the sand. But I think things slowly get settled down, and then one plant starts sheltering another, etc.
So you basically grew up 30 years here, and then went to the UK. Did you go to the UK after this?
I was there for several years, and I came back, and I taught at Stellenbosch University in the late 60s.
Okay.
Here's the tennis courts were here, but they were in a completely shocking condition, completely overgrown by Roykrons. So a whole lot of us, I was in my teens, got around and we reused it again. And these houses along here are the marine oil houses from the Marine Oil Company at Dido Valley, the factory.
Okay.
And these were built in the 50s, and these, and I think these. But there are about maybe 6 of them in a row, and if you look from above, you can see from the roofs they're all basically the same pattern, the same shape, same plan.
So you must have had a magic view from the house up here.
Oh, it's beautiful. It blew up the valley to the Koppie and across there, because there was just a few little houses over on the other side, Glencairn Heights. Graham had her shop there, and the fishermen families lived there. And the rest was sandhills. Now this is our plot. We didn't have a garage. I remember we had a guy come and dig out this space here, which was intended for a garage.
Double plot, 1,000 squares, easy.
Yeah, it's a double plot, and I'm glad they've kept it. It looks very nice now, I must say. It looks.
So you said, what's that? It was 60 something, late 60s was that? Or 70s?
Built in 1948.
And sold in
Probably about 1962.
And that was 5,000 then, and it's probably pushing what, 7 million now for a place
I
like that?
have no idea. And this is our neighbour. This was their plot. This was also a Scotsman, Sir William Thompson, and his wife. He had been the academic registrar of the Victoria College, which was later became Stellenbosch University, and he retired here. And I remember my bedroom looked down into their garden, and I used to see him pottering around in a kind of leather jerkin. But they died, and their daughter, Mrs. Parker, lovely lady. I became very good friends of the family, and we used to come. And when my sister, who was 13 years younger than me, they used to come and play there and wander around in their garden with its corners, and came across a cobra on one occasion.
And that was the traditional way they built houses in the old.
Yeah, this was very really stone with a stoop. Really very practical, very nice. Using lots of stone. And even the garden wall is stone.
And was there a particular part of Scotland where they came from?
Not that I know of. I think they got together here probably.
From all over.
And this is the back of my uncle's place, Uncle Joe. That's my father's eldest brother. And this was built probably in the early 30s. So it's a very big place, as you see. They had 5 daughters, and they also had, over the years, many uncles and cousins and aunts and people staying there. The youngest of the 5 girls is just a bit younger than me. We were great pals. We used to go up the mountain here and all kinds of things, climb whatever trees there were. And there were a number of houses along here. It's hard to recognise them now. I think it came to a dead end. It probably still does. So there were scattered houses along here.
Where did you go to school?
I started at Muizenberg Junior School. If you go to Muizenberg now, by the park, there's a big building which is now the police station.
Yeah.
That was Muizenberg Junior and High Schools when I went there. And then I think and I was in one of the first classes that moved from that to the place close to Force Bay Station, where the primary school or the junior school is now. And after 2 or 3 years, I then went to Bishop's, catching the train still. I started catching the train when I was 6 years old to go to Muizenberg and back. And on one occasion, well, it must have been soon after I started there, I met a couple of friends, and we were just playing around close in the park, where the bowling green is now. And I remember looking into the pools there and seeing these great big frogs. And we hung out there, and then I realised I'd missed my train home. So I had this naive idea that there was only one train that I could catch, and that was my train. And so I started walking from Muizenberg. I remember there was a telephone booth, the old style, like where Superman could go in there and change his clothes. And being, fairly thoughtful about it, I thought, well, they should know that I'm walking home. So I tried to make a phone call, and I didn't know that you had to put 2 tickies in. So it rang, and nothing happened. so I just kept on walking, and I really enjoyed that. And every now and then a train would go by. I think, oh well, that's not my train. And as we were getting quite close to Glencairn, another train came by with a lot of school kids on it. And I thought, oh, that's Anthony's train. That's my older brother. And I was quite taken aback when people got so excited when I arrived home. It was about 6 o'clock. But it was a nice walk.
Exactly.
Yeah, and gosh, I think the population of Cape Town now is about 4 times what it was when I was a kid.
It must have been a different place.
Utterly different. There's none of that across there off Glencairn Heights, just none.
Nothing.
There was a lot of sand hills. I have photographs in the family of when my father was about 17 or so, and they moved here when he was about 16, and of sand just covering that mountainside from the beach up there.
So it was a sand dune back in the day.
Just pure beach sand blown up by the southeaster. Yeah. And it was slowly getting colonized by Roykrans. But the sand dunes were a wonderful place to go and play.
I can imagine.
And they went right up over there.
So that was all sand dunes.
What we're looking at was not it. It was about probably the sand dune started about halfway up there, and then they stretched along up there, almost as far as you can see. And then there was a section below them that already got colonized by Roykrans in a big way above the river. There was a big fire also in that sometime then. The tarred road stopped at the church, and then it was a gravel road. And and it went up to Welcome Farm, which was a very active dairy at that time.
Oh, Welcome Farm. All these places just kind of lost in history.
Yeah, I know. Well, I was just talking to Dale. That the old farmhouse itself was not a fancy one, but it had a very simple pointed gable, and it should be a historical monument, and it should be restored because there are so few genuine farmhouses in the Cape Peninsula that are left. And I hope it hasn't been horribly modernized. I believe it was in a poor state. And anyway, so that was the farm. It was very active. They used to have the milk van drawn by a couple of horses, and I would sometimes just hop on the back, sit there at the back and get a ride up to the farm. More often would ride up and just hang out around there in the mud, squelching around the cows were. And actually, talk about horses, at that stage also, the garbage van, the garbage truck, was actually a big open wagon drawn by horses. And they would come up here, big horses.
I suppose you can go up here and then take a right.
Yeah, that was all bush. That's all bush up there. None of those houses. There were just these few houses in front.
Is this a one-way, Dale?
You can go right. There's also a cul-de-sac. You have to turn around.
Okay, but there's probably some nice memories up here.
So a couple of these houses, no, not these. These are all post my time. Everything along here.
So this didn't exist?
It was just bush, plain bush. Yeah. So, yeah.
When was the big influx into this area?
I really don't know, because I went away. I was in the 70s. I was living in Canada, and I didn't pay much attention to Glencairn when I came back. I was very focused up towards the Rondawash area. So I probably started in the 70s, I imagine.
Here's an old house, this old stone house. But
oh yes, no. This was Miss Astrup, not Miss Astrup. The Astrups were the hotel people. This was Miss Tugwell, who had been the matron or warden of one of the UCT's women's residences, Fuller Hall. That was the only one, and she retired. and one of the new women's residences at UCT was called Tocqueville Hall in honour of her. She lived by herself, and I'd often see her walking down the road, going to the train or something like that. Very friendly, but she was very much on her own. And down below here, before the Rotary camp existed, there was another kind of charitable foundation which had campsites down here. We called it Haynes's Field because I think Mr. Haynes, in fact I think I remember seeing him once. He was the person behind it, and they had large wooden chalets there where children would come down. I remember on one occasion on the road there was this group of girls, I think they were from something called St. George's Orphanage, singing, and they were singing what was that sentimental singer? It'll come back to me. Someone from the early 50s, and they were singing one of his latest songs as they walked on. It sticks in my mind.
Matt Monroe or something like that.
Before that, I
Even
think.
before that.
Yeah. It was a kind of slightly weepy crooner song. So the Rotary camp was opened, must have been late 40s. It was opened by General Smuts, or formerly opened by General Smuts. And my mother and my brother and I, my father must have been at work, my mother and brother and I sat opposite our house there, where there were a couple of trees, waiting, and he came down in an open car and raised his hat politely to us as he went by. That was General Smuts. It must have been because he was voted out in 1948 by the Nats, and he must have probably still been Prime Minister then, I think. So it was about that time. Now it's amazing to me to see all these large trees here, all the way along. They just didn't exist. I used to come bird watching around here. This was just sandy space with scattered shrubs, fenbos, and I'd come on my bike and got interested in bird watching, and just looking for birds around here.
Must have been a great place to grow up as a child.
It was wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful. I would come home from school on the train and walk up home and just throw off my shoes and put on the only kind of other clothes I had, which was khaki shorts and shirt, which was standard, and set off on my bike or to the beach or up the mountain or whatever. And it was fantastic. And catch a train in the morning. I remember for years the train was 7 that I caught down there. And this, it's hard to figure out where everything is or was. But this must be getting close to where the farm started. And there was probably on this, I think probably right here, it looks like about the right place. There was another old house occupied by an elderly coloured couple, Mr. and Mrs. Dreyer, who used to come down the road with their horse and cart every now and then, probably going to Soundstone to do their shopping. I think it must have been around here, yeah.
So was this how did group areas affect Glencairn?
Horribly. Well, not as bad as Simonstown was virtually destroyed as a community by the Group Areas Act. But Glencairn, there were the fishermen over there. I'm not sure what happened, whether they could stay or not. And then there were some workers' cottages just along here, and then the Dreyers. But Simonstown was such a mixed community racially. We thought the group areas, they would never be able to unscramble it, but they managed, because there was something completely obsessive and insane about apartheid, that you had to get absolutely everybody categorized in this completely unscientific division. And once they'd put you into a block, then they knew where you had to go, and it wasn't a place like this.
Yeah.
So places around Cape Town, like Harfield Road and parts of Newlands, etc., where there were established villages with cottages, are now kind of rather cool cottages, and they were simply taken out and dumped on the Cape Flats. No matter how many years they'd lived there, how big their land was. Some of them even had around Parow, large plots, and they were growing fruit trees and all that. No, it was a Group Areas Act. It's probably the apartheid legislation that's had the longest impact.
And it's still ticking.
Yeah. No, where is the farmhouse? Must be up here somewhere.
Yeah, it's up here. You just go first road to your left and then left again.
Okay. And okay.
And yeah, there's an old campsite with this beautiful waterfall.
Oh, really? Well, that was built after my time. Yeah. And so, if the farmhouse was there, then the cow sheds and everything was just down from it over here. Yeah. It was the De Villiers family. I don't know if there'd always been De Villiers there. De Villiers is there from sometime in the early 19th century. But certainly the old man, I remember, he was, by the time I was up here, he was looking very bent over. And his son, Davy De Villiers, wasn't all that interested in getting his hands dirty. He's just sold off property in all directions. Starting with the Navy camp at whatever was something, the park up there.
The Gama Park.
The Gama Park.
So you say left up here to the farmhouse.
And then left again. And John, there's an interesting story about terms of your sister. You said she was so moved by living here that she's actually like left.
Yeah, she doesn't want to. She doesn't want to even look at Glencairn now if she visits. Yeah.
Too much development. Dale, you've been here about 5 years. Have you noticed even more in that time?
Where is the old house?
Just straight.
Straight.
Okay.
Well, what I've noticed is that it's said that there's this amazing movement. There's so many more trees here than Muizenberg. Because I think this little pocket here in the valley, there's no wind.
It's much more sheltered.
I have noticed again this urban creep towards the deep south, and you look at the road infrastructure, it's getting busier and busier.
The deep south has been horribly overpopulated. They've had to redo electricity, water, sanitation, everything, roads,
and
horribly blocked.
So the water pipes keep bursting now because they've got aging infrastructure. Here's the old park, and it's next door the farm.
Park.
Yeah.
There's the old park.
I don't know if you remember the park with the beautiful oak trees.
Is that the farmhouse at the top?
Just past the park on the left. You see, John, they've just put a fence around just to try to keep out squatters, and they put up cameras and well, not cameras, but they had people squatting in here, so they put the fence around.
But where's the old house? Must be.
Yeah, just past here. You see the original farmhouse. Yeah. There you go, over here.
What, that?
This one, just over there, in front of you, just over there.
You can see the windows.
Yes, I see.
It's got broken windows. It's derelict.
I can see. Yeah, there's the original, very simple gable.
Yeah. And the old, you see that their stoop is half enclosed. They've ruined the stoop.
Yeah. It may have had even an open. It was a completely open stoop. Very simple.
The roof's probably been redone as well.
Yeah.
And also, when you were here, it must have been just this beautiful land sprawling forward with none of the houses.
And the road was not far away down there, and then the cow sheds and everything was down below here, and the old mill was not far away. The water mill. It was a ruin by then, of course. But you could still see the mill race, where the water is narrowed down, so you get a bit more of a force from it coming through and turning a wheel. There was nothing left of the wheel, and the building itself was very much a pile of stones, but you can certainly see where it was. And there were quite a lot of pine trees up on that side. In fact, I remember my dad and I always used to come up around Christmas time and select a nice small young pine tree and take it home and stick it in a bucket with stones to keep it upright. Real pine tree, real Christmas tree.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And were there many other people from school who lived this side?
No.
So you must have been quite a anomaly in that regard.
Well, Fishook, lots of
Okay,
kids.
so it wasn't that far out.
Yeah, oh yeah. And in fact, catching the train, I would have to change trains at Fishook because there were a lot of express trains then. And the train that we started on, which is also the train my dad would catch to town in the morning, from Fishook it went express in all kinds of ways. So we changed trains at Fishook onto a slow train. And that's where it got filled up with kids. It was very sociable going to school in the morning. I remember Jeff Davies, who's Bishop Jeff Davies, he's been very much the founder and runner of a faith-based environmental movement. And his father was actually the Anglican rector at St. Francis. And Jeff also went into the church. But he was a year or two behind me at school, and he was full of activity on the train.
And the train service now compared to what it is?
Nothing, of course. It's extremely sad because
Left, yeah. There's not even a shadow of its former self.
no, well they're slowly putting it together again. But it was an extraordinarily good service, actually. Lots of trains during the day. And I started when I graduated from UCT. I went straight into work for a publishing firm in Cape Town, and everybody used to work on Saturday morning as well. Quite a full week. And I remember very well that there was a train at about 1 o'clock on a Saturday that expressed from Cape Town to Muizenberg, vroom, all the way. And there was always lots of people on it. But that was an unusual case for such a long express. That's why so many of the stations have one station on one side, and then on the other side, like Claremont, for example, at Mowbray, there is a station which is like an island, and there's a third line behind it. So when you've got lots of trains coming and going and expresses, the slow trains would come into that extra line, also opening onto a station platform, and so the express would go straight through on the main one. Took a lot of wangling, but we used to get the timetable, a little book, a thick little book for the year, and its trains are such a good thing for moving lots of people cheaply. And I think people don't realise the kind of economic and social impact that the falling off. You just look at people now on the Cape Flats who are having to pay through their noses for taxis, or even the buses are more expensive. Yeah, anyway, it's another story, and we hope that they make some kind of a comeback.
Exactly.
Yeah, and there was this road, it went on round the corner here, and there was another old farmhouse up here, which, the road curved around, and the farmhouse was on the other side of the river up here. I think it's probably been knocked down. We called it De Stadlers. The De Stadlers must have been occupants at some stage.
This 8-span?
What?
What's this 8-span place on the right?
That's new.
Rotary.
Relatively new. Bear in mind that I left 60 years ago.
Exactly.
The 8-span is the old Navy. It was the old Navy Bry area. People from the Navy
Right.
use it as a Bry area.
Semi-old. Yeah.
And this is the land that used to be owned by the De Villiers, and they sold it to the Navy for the.
That's right.
It's become like a one-horse town.
And there's poplars down there. I think the think the old house was across the river there because there was a big poplar grove. Yeah. It's just the road went down there to come up here. And then it came to, then there was a kind of a jeep track that went from here through the gap and down into wherever the gap is, and down into Dido Valley.
That must have been quite fun.
Yeah, it was just.
You ever take a jeep down there?
Kay Ollis, who lived there, and I said she had a very ancient little car, Austin 7, I think it was, that's right. She wanted to have it fixed by this young guy, a bit older than me, who was quite good at fixing things. And we decided to have a bit of a joyride, so we came up here in this little one, and we went right through. We had to get out and push it a couple of times, but it was almost like pushing a hand cart. It was so small. One of the absolute upright, boxy little car.
And you can see in terms of the actual the budget for defence has gone through the toilet. The houses are like looking very run down now.
Well, that's the trouble when you make it all kind of organisational. That people don't own them. Yeah, the old farmhouse, the Stadlers must be there across the river.
Yeah, I think it was just over the bridge there. But these houses could be so beautiful. I mean, opposite the river. And
Yeah.
Sooner or later, the developers are going to get hold of this place.
Yeah, well, somebody needs to buy it up and smarten it up. It's a waste.
Yeah.
And this is the old. Is this the beginning of the actual kind of Elsie's River, or is it?
Yeah, this is Elsie's River. Makes a curve down. Yeah, the old house must have been just down there. Oh,
These old
This
flats.
is the most ugly building.
Looks like Soviet architecture.
Yeah.
Yes, like in the middle of this countryside.
I mean, what's the need to put a high rise up with so much land?
Yeah.
Do you think this would be the old Jeep track?
No. It was not as high as that. It's just
Jeez, this is like.
went way across that way.
These are the old Navy buildings.
Yeah.
It's amazing, like soulless blocks. As you said, it's like East Germany.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's like post Chernobyl. Every time I come here,
Yes.
I don't see people here.
No.
I don't see kids running around. It's like weird.
Wow.
What should we just drive around them?
Wow.
It's not
Actually,
worth it.
there are people living
You
here.
can see it. It's
Go
falling
back the
apart.
same way, I guess.
Yeah. Get the general idea.
If you go over the hill up on from the other side, from the road to Silentstown,
Yeah.
there are lots of big guns.